You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo. I'm your host Katrina and with me is my husband Stephen.
Hello.
We are back with another anime and this one is The Promised Neverland, which we have kind of talked about before and our interest in watching. And we jumped right into it and we decided to do it a little different this time. We are going to watch 6 episodes and then do a overall discussion about those 6 episodes and then watch another 6 and so on and so forth. So we can kind of split it up, get several episodes for the podcast while also being able to absorb more of the anime in one sitting. And then we can get on to another anime a little bit faster. But Stephen, what did you think?
Well, was not 100% sure what I was getting into, but I kind of had a hunch that there would be a dark turn somewhere based on some... Because you never let me jump in with no understanding of what I'm watching. You just like, I remember bits you always mention. So I knew there was something going to happen. Mm-hmm. But what happened, I didn't expect. So, as you said, we covered 6 episodes because I felt like, and I'm hoping that our listeners will appreciate this a little bit more, because doing the episode to episode kind of thing, it's a little harder to talk about everything in great detail. Yeah. And I thought at least maybe doing half of a season at a time might help, like you said, retain things, because I felt like I can remember the character names now. Yeah. Versus I struggled all through Full Metal Alchemist trying to remember everyone's name because we were watching them in spurts. So here I remember Emma, Norman, Ray, Dawn, Gilda, Mother, Krona, and there were probably more. But those are at least the main focal characters that we got to see throughout this season. Or
so far.
So that helped.
I mean, there are definitely a lot more children, but a lot of them...
They're in passing. You barely get to know them outside of the little girl. Connie. Yeah, they bring her up a lot because she is kind of the crux of the first episode. Yep. So the way it starts, if you've never seen it, is you see these kids and they look like they're in an orphanage. Or they are in an orphanage. And everything just seems like a normal orphanage. You see a bunch of kids, and they're going to breakfast, they're waking up, they're having fun, they're just playing, whatever. But if you pay attention to a lot of the details around the orphanage, something seems a little off. You're not quite sure what it is, but they make a point to hone in on little details.
I would... definitely feel like the main detail would be the big number tattoo on the side of their neck.
Primary thing to notice that you'll notice is on their left side of their neck, they have numbers. It's at least 5 or 6.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because that actually threw me off at first, because if you pay attention to the way the episodes are labeled, I thought maybe it was related to the numbers, but it's the date. So each episode is what the date is, and that can be a little discombobulating for those of us who live in America, because they're doing the European or otherworldly way of writing your dates. Yeah. Because we got to be stupid here in America. We have to go against the grain. We don't use the metric system. We got to use this other stupid system that we came up with. We can't have 0 degrees be freezing. We have to say, no, it's 32 Fahrenheit because that makes more sense to us. Sure it does. Anyway, so it's October 12th, I think, is when the episode begins. And we kind of get a day in the life of these kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the big deal is they play tag together. That seems to be like a big group activity. And Norman is the one person that everybody hates playing tag with because he apparently wins every time. That's the one thing they wanted to point out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great way to get to know Norman, in a sense, because they pointed out he is a thinker. He is a strategist. How he handles tag is how he deals with all problems. He thinks about it. He formulates a plan. He learns everything about all his opponents and knows how to trick them.
Yeah.
Manipulate the situation to where he can tag them, and that's that. Because we see him at least pull it off with 2 characters, and that would have been Don. And I can't remember how he got him.
There were footprints that Don was looking at, and he was like, haha, Norman, you messed up.
That's right.
And then, of course, he let his guard down, and Norman was right behind him. So.
And then with Emma, she was hiding in a tree, and then he tripped and fell and acted like he was hurt. And, of course, she, being a caring person, comes down and is like, oh, are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm fine. Tag. And that was the end of the game. So he knows how to play a situation, and he's the character I seem to be paying closer attention to more than any of them, because in these 6 episodes that we watched, I'm trying to figure out what his overall plan is, because I genuinely feel, and you will know because you've seen it all, but from what I'm seeing thus far, he's plotting something else no one else knows about. I think he's got a strategy in his head he's keeping to himself, despite talking to everybody and saying, well, here's what we're thinking, because every time he's explained his plan, he has another backup plan.
Yep.
So I personally feel the actual plan that he has not been said aloud. He has fragments of it that he's laying out there, but he's keeping his overall plan to himself, and that's smart.
Yeah.
For a strategist, because the way a lot of this stuff plays out in these 6 episodes, he would be a fool to give away his entire plan.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I wholeheartedly believe that, because Emma, for starters, she's a good egg. You know, she has a good heart. I guess we need to get to the point before we explain all that.
They're just like, what the hell is happening to all these children in this orphanage?
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Okay.
Fucked up things are happening.
Within the first, I'd say 10, 12, because these are about 20-minute episodes. It's hard to gauge.
24, 23, 24 minutes.
Yeah, with anime, because sometimes they go through so quick.
Yeah.
So I'd say the first 2/3 of the episode, so say about 10, 12, 15 minutes, something like that, we get to know the kids. And then we get to know Connie, who's probably, 6, I think they said?
She's 6 years old, yes.
6 years old. She just seems bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and she's all excited, and they've told her that she's getting adopted, and she's so excited, and she cannot wait to go be with her new family, but then she's also going to miss her family here because she loves everybody at the orphanage, and she just wants to be such a great mom, like Mom, their mother, who is their caretaker. And she's just like, she's so great, and I just want to be so much like her. And you're just like, oh. Now, when we first watched this is the second, I will say that we watched the first episode because you wanted me to kind of get to ingest it. Yes. And then when we finally got around to recording, it was not the same day, so I decided I needed to rewatch that one to refresh my memory. Even though I knew how it ended, I still just wanted to make sure that I had it fresh in my head. So, because I didn't know how it was going to go down, there was something about that child. And
about
just,
Connie.
Yeah, her just super positive demeanor. I was like, there's something about that kid.
I think it even makes it so much more ominous is they do certain shots. Like there's a point when they're talking before they know what the hell's going on. They're all standing around talking after they got done playing tag. And one, who is it? Glenda. She makes the comment of...
Or Gilda?
Gilda. Yeah, that's right. Not Glenda.
Close enough.
The good witch. Gilda makes the comment about how doesn't anybody think it's funny that none of their siblings wrote to them after they got adopted.
Mhm.
And Emma's kind of like, Norman brushes it off first. And he's, kind of like, well, maybe they're just being respective of their adoptive parents and they don't want to hurt their feelings, that kind of stuff. And they all just kind of have that discussion about it, but it's just kind of swept under the rug.
Mhm.
But it's like they're noticing things. And Connie makes the comment of, when she gets adopted, no matter what, she's going to write them every day because she loves them and, they'll always be family. And they do like not a freeze frame, but she like that traditional anime thing where they just kind of, it's like they're frozen freeze frame, but they're just sitting there and it's kind of like laughing, but their mouth's not moving and all that kind of stuff. And it's just almost like an ominous thing. And that was the part where you were like, I don't know about that kid.
Yeah, it just came off very ominous. Like there was just something off. And I was like, So I just assumed, okay, maybe there's something wrong with the kid.
Yeah.
Because the whole, I love mom so much, I want to be so much like her. I was like, oh, this kid's going to turn out to be some kind of backstabber. And I don't know. My head went in 100 million different directions. Did not wind up where it actually wound up. But yeah, I've noticed that too. And I guess I want to talk about that real quick before going any further, because I did notice that too. They have a very specific way of doing certain shots in this anime, which I appreciate, and how they're driving a point home or just playing with your expectations. I think even in the last episode that we watched, there was a very specific shot that I was curious about, because the main characters were all kind of in a room in the dark and they were talking, and then one of them kind of shot a glance over to the side like he...
That's when they were standing outside talking.
No. This was in the library. He shot us like a look off to the side, and it was almost like they heard somebody or sensed somebody was in the room, but you saw no one. It was just kind of like looking in the dark, and you just kind of was like, what is that about? And then you get to later in the woods, and then we find out, there was someone there. So they were giving us a hint that someone had been listening to their conversation. So I was like, okay.
So that scene with her, when I watched it the very first time, and the scene with Corona where she's just...
Corona?
What was her name?
Corona?
Corona.
Yeah, she ain't a virus.
Or a beer.
Or a beer.
Okay. Corona. She's standing there behind a tree, and the kids are just, talking and everything, and they walk past her, and you just see her. Now, obviously, you know this about me, but our viewers might not. I get really jumpy when it comes to like horror movies or anything that has any type of like jump scares. So like in the first episode, right towards the end where, Emma and Norman come back to the house and everything, and it does like that, it's playing that music, and then all of a sudden it's just like a dunk, and then it shows Mother. Like that shit made me jump the first time I watched it. When I first watched it, that scene of them in the woods made me jump because I'm just like, yes, they're figuring it out. And then I see it and I was like, fuck. Like it made me like, I don't even know, my body tensed up. But I love things that can do that to me without being like absolutely terrifying. Like I don't like the things that just jump out at you, that type of crap. But I don't know. This is definitely one of those that made me clench up a lot.
I guess I could see that. Because there were a few good tense moments in it.
Oh, just wait, buddy.
But, yeah, when the day comes that Connie is getting ready to be adopted, it already seemed odd because it was happening at night.
Yeah.
And that just seemed off. And I was like, okay, something's not right here. So Mother takes Connie off and she says her goodbyes. And then they start walking out and you see them walking down this road. And Mother starts humming, and Connie's like, what is that song? And I was like, okay, this is getting weirder and creepier because she doesn't say a damn word. She just continues humming, looking at her like, oh,
gives her like a little, side eye and just keeps humming, not a fucking word.
And I was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So then I started getting serial killer vibes. And then we cut back to the school, and Emma notices the home. What did I say?
The school.
Yeah, well.
I mean, they do all of it.
Well, no, let me talk about that real quick while I'm thinking about it. I know we're trying to get there. Just bear with me, because I can actually talk about this in great detail like this now.
It's okay. It holds them in suspense.
I know. Especially if you don't know.
Exactly. They're like, what happened?
But there was a scene in the very first episode where it looked like they were in a classroom and they were doing something with these.
Yes, they were in a classroom.
So it looked like they were jotting down barcodes?
No. There are... The way that the test is there are like images that basically correlate to answers, and they scan the barcode that is the correct thing. So it's not like writing, so you can do it as fast as possible. Because remember, they only had like 10 seconds in which to do it.
Sure. And see, now that's another point that they make in the show that they keep mentioning is how they're being tested and all this. And yet we've only seen that one time. Now, granted, I understand through the timeline, we've technically only been through at least maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Because the last episode we watched, I think, was the end of October. And it started at, what would we say, the 12th? So
yes.
Yeah, so...
Yes, they haven't hit November yet because they're planning something in November. Right. So they haven't hit it yet.
October 12th when Connie left, and it was October 31st, or at least to what I remember, it was October 31st when we stopped watching this last episode. So it's been almost a full month that all this has occurred, just so you have a little context. But back to Connie. So, yeah, her rabbit, she had a rabbit. That was another thing.
Yes, Mr. Bunny.
Mr. Bunny. She left it behind, and they all knew this is her bestest friend in the whole world. So
Pretty sure
Emma
it's Mr. Bunny.
Panicked, freaked out, and just like, oh my God, she forgot it. So...
Emma and Norman.
Well, yeah, Ray had said, hey,
yes.
I still see a light out there. She hasn't, Mother hasn't come back. So if you hurry now, you might be able to catch them. So they know they're not supposed to go to the gate. That's a rule that they talked about. There's
it's literally one of the first scenes that you have.
A lot of context here. So they've been told they're not supposed to go to the gate. And there's also a fence line, and they're not supposed to cross the fence. However, they did talk about the fence and how odd that they talk about how dangerous it is to go beyond the fence, yet the fence is probably, 2 foot high?
Yeah.
So, sure, they can go over it, so what's the problem?
Exactly.
And that's kind of where a lot of this little seeds are being planted for the rest of the season.
Yes.
So they decide to go chase after Mother.
Well, chase after Connie.
But Mother's with her. Same thing. So they go after, and get to the thing, and we're like, well, we're not supposed to be here. It's like, it'll be fine. We'll get in trouble, but hey, it'll be worth it. We'll talk our way out of it, whatever. So they go into this building. There's a truck. They start looking around, and everything it's like the mood. You can just feel it getting darker. Because it does. It starts off really light and playful and just, And then the farther down we go, it just gets darker and darker. So there's a truck. Norman starts looking around. Emma starts looking around. And then this is one of those shots I really like because Emma spots the truck. She goes to open it, but then they keep doing these cutaway shots to like this dripping water. And the same when Norman comes back and she gasps. And then Norman, they do a few interesting shots with him. And then he walks over and then that water drop gets closer and louder. Until you finally see what they both see, and that's Connie laying dead in the back of this truck and has what looked to be a rose.
It's not a rose, but it is a type of flower.
I was going to say it resembled a rose, just immediate thought that popped in my head, but there was something about it. It didn't quite look like a rose, so I wasn't quite sure what kind of flower it was. But it resembles one very closely. So a little red flower, let's just put it that way. So, yeah, they go into a panic, and I mean, you don't know what to think at that point. It's like, oh shit, because she's dead in the back of this truck. So what happened? Mm-hmm. And then you start hearing voices. So then they crawl up under a truck, or the truck that she's laying in. And then these big things come out and they put her in this jar of formaldehyde.
I would imagine it's probably just like a preservative.
Yeah. So something like that.
Like food grade preservative.
But you're hearing this
Possibly just water.
conversation. Yeah. You're hearing this conversation where they mention that they're going to eat her. Mm-hmm. And there's little bits to the details too that they don't quite explain here. And then I think our protagonists expound upon what they're actually consuming later on. But they make it sound like they're going to eat her, but she's not top grade. That's another thing they make a point to say is like, we got another one of these. When are we going to get the good stuff? I guess we'll settle for this, but I guess this will do for now. But we want the good stuff. So then you start questioning, what is the good stuff? Mm-hmm. We get to kind of see the demons as they refer to them as. I don't really know if that's accurate, but I don't know what they are technically, so I'll just go with demons. Yeah. And they have weird eye thing going on with masks. It's just, and very long.
I think that's their actual face.
Okay, well, it's weird, whatever the fuck it is. And then they've got these big, just stringy fingers with these long nails, and just, they look creepy. And they sense,
especially to 11-year-old children, which is how old both Norman and Emma are. So you can only imagine what it was like for Connie when she came face to face with them.
So they go into a panic. They're sensed by one of these demons, but then they get away. But they forget to grab the bunny, and they left it behind. And this was the scene that you were just talking about, is they run back to the house. They're trying to process everything, and you just get this sense that everything, like they don't quite know how to make sense of it.
And there's just like this beautiful melody. It's like, I say it's beautiful, but it's like heartbreaking. It's one of those songs that makes you like want to tear up because you can feel the emotion. And I think that's the thing that gets you with it, because it's literally just nice and pretty music. And then it's just like, it just cuts it abruptly. And then you just see their mother standing there holding the bunny, just looking at it with like this, I can't even describe the face. I don't know if it would be like a murderous intent or if it would just be like, oh my God, I fucked up big time.
I kind of took it as like, God damn it. Like, I'm going to have to kill a kid.
I mean, fuck, she's been leading them off to slaughter.
I know. But it's a wrinkle that she's going to have to deal with.
Yes.
Because now her secret's pretty much out. But we are under the assumption she wouldn't know who it is.
Yes. And I guess the other thing would also be the fact that they do make a point also to state that the crop that aka the children, that comes from this particular mother's home.
Farm.
Yeah, farm.
They even said plantation at one time. What the black woman in the room? Keep that in mind. Continue. I don't think they meant anything by it. I just, poor choice of words in my mind.
But they make a point to say that hers are the absolute best. Like top tier, like she is freaking A-ranked prime fucking rib type quality.
That's where you go to get your morsels.
Exactly. Yeah. Like only the rich can afford the crop of children that come from her house.
She's Doritos and everybody else is like Best Choice brand tortillas. It's just not the same.
Which it was funny because that was literally, again, when I first watched this and they were talking about it and everything, it was like it struck me of, oh my God, this isn't the only freaking place. There are more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't think that really clicked for me until a little bit later when another character got introduced. But it should have been clear. if there's a swarm of demons out there, why is this the only place?
That's true. That's true. And that's one of the things, like, as, you know, the show goes on and everything, you end up finding out that Ray has known for several years.
Mm-hmm.
According to him, I think it was 6.
I believe so. Because...
So 6 out of his 11 years, he has known of what has been going on with his siblings.
Yeah.
And he made a deal with Mother to keep tabs on the kids and make sure that they never find out. He had, you know, a plan under his plan of protecting Emma and Norman, and basically just Emma and Norman.
And he's a character that I don't know if I trust because of how he's been doing things, because he seems like he's playing both sides of the field here, which understandably where he started from before he admitted that he knew everything. He admitted that he sent Emma to find everything out, and Norman. Because like he set that whole thing up to have him go out there and witness everything so that he had, I guess, backups or
allies.
Allies.
So that he wasn't the only one that knew what was going on.
But there were things that he did, like Norman had set up this whole plot because there was that conspiracy after they had had this conversation. Because when they got back, obviously Ray was there and he's like, hey, did you get there? And they didn't admit to anything. Yeah. So eventually he caught them out in the woods because they had found, once you go beyond the woods far enough, there's what would they say, a 2 meter tall wall, or is it 2 meters thick?
I think it's 2 meters thick, but I don't remember how tall it is, but it's very tall. It was at least
a 20-foot wall, had to have been.
Yeah. And solid, smooth.
Yeah, just granite. So they're out there discussing that, and then Ray comes out there and confronts them about it, so they tell him what they know. Then they start to get suspicious, or at least especially Norman does, that they have a mole somewhere in the orphanage that is feeding Mother information. So Norman sets up a little plan to hide some items and tell certain people where said items are, so that when it's revealed to Mother where said items are, then when it's missing, bada bing, bada boom, you find out who your mole is. Yep. Well, that's when he finds out it was Ray. That Ray has been the one feeding information, because I think it was Gilda that was being suspected at one point, and Emma was actually getting worried.
Gilda and Dawn both were under suspicion of being it, and Ray even tried to throw Phil, who is like a toddler, tried to throw him under the bus. And I will say Phil is a pretty awesome little character, even though I don't feel like you really get to know him very well throughout it. Like I explained to Stephen, and I'm sure anybody who has watched this show, especially if you know the content in which it's based off of, the first season is good. The second season, I myself have never read the manga, but I knew something was wrong with the second season as soon as I watched it. It is very fast-paced. I feel like it glosses over a lot of storylines, and a lot of threads never get ended properly. And that will be the biggest problem I know you are going to have with the second season, because I myself have a problem with it.
Well, let's stick to the season we're on right now.
Yes, I'm just saying, he is a character, Phil is a character who I absolutely adore. He's an adorable little boy. And he's just always smiling and always happy. And then Ray, being the little peckerhead that he is, tried to throw him under the bus.
Yeah. Now, it was around this time, too, that all this was happening, that I did forget to bring up Krona.
Yes.
Because as things were as they were trying to get their plans in motion on what they wanted to do, how they were going to escape, and they were going to get all the kids out, it was about that time, too, that we find out that Mother had a way to track them.
Yes.
Because she pulled out a pocket watch, and they were just like, okay, so she's been following us. She knows where we are. And the way they found that out is one of the other kids had wound up missing. She popped out the pocket watch, and they're like, okay, well, I'll go look for her. And the next thing you know, she's coming right back with her in her arms.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's where they got that flag raised. So they were trying to work around that, but then Mother brings in backup, which is another, what would you call them? I mean, she's not classified as a mother, so...
A mother in training, I guess,
Yeah, I
would
guess
be
that
the
would be-
best thing for it.
Because they're dressed almost identical.
Yes, and you do, I will say that within the first season, everything, you do find out more about Mother and all that kind of stuff. They do answer a lot of those questions. But yeah, I'd say like a mother in training or something like that, an assistant.
Yeah, because when she comes in, that kind of puts a crimp in their plans. We go like, well, shit, now we can't distract her. Now we got to worry about her. She's going to be crawling up her asses and watching our every move. So now we got to worry about 2 people. So what are we going to do?
It's crazy when you think about it, because when you see like their home, it is a big house. Obviously, they got like, I think they said they had like 30 something kids that lived there. So massive house, sits on top of a hill. You cannot see that 20-foot stone wall from on top of that hill.
That's true.
So this entire area is massive, and they have free roam of it to a point, because we don't know technically how far from the fence it is to the wall.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like that far if these kids are able to run that in such a short amount of time.
Now, if this happens, don't tell me.
Okay.
But it just occurred to me, since these kids are practically cattle.
Yes.
So having this area would almost be like a free range cattle area, so they can graze and exercise and just be, be good. And then there should be caged children.
This is I worked with a woman who was actually friends with your mom. Her name is Miss Sherry, and she raised pigs and cows. And I ate one of her pork chops, and it was the best fucking pork chop I've ever eaten in my life. Super tender. And she said the reason for it is that she raised them with love and care. She'd go out there and love on them every single day, got them as bottle babies, raised them all the way up until the day she put a freaking bullet in their head. She said she'd go out there in the field, sit down in the field, love on them, pet on them, talk to them, and then pull out her gun and shoot them, and then cook them.
Jesus.
And she said it will be the most tender meat you will ever have, because they do not die scared and tense and everything else. They die quick. So all they've ever known is your love. I feel like that is what Mother is there for. All these children have ever known is her love, her safety, and her warmth. And then when she takes them off, they're snuffed out. And that's all they've ever known. They're supposed to live in that stupid bliss. So they have this massive property with a small amount of rules to keep them within this stupid bliss. And if you notice, they ship them off by age 12 is the latest, which would be the age of actually realizing shit is fucked up and not, starting to
process it.
Exactly. Thinking at just a higher level.
Yeah. More
and that's
cognitive
the
thinking.
thing that does make Ray, Norman, and Emma different, is because for as young as they are very, very intelligent.
Norman especially. I think he's the brain behind them all. And I'm honestly surprised he hasn't figured this shit out by now. But if you had no reason to believe otherwise, I mean, you wouldn't.
Exactly.
You're not looking for it.
Ignorant bliss.
Yeah. So I hope everybody is happy to know how you get your meat.
No, everybody else's meat comes from,
I know.
big farms.
That's why it tastes horrible.
Yeah.
There's no love. They're just caged animals. Anyway, but Krona comes into the picture, and when we mention her, like when we kind of get to see her off to herself, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect her to be a character we would focus on like that.
Yeah.
I figured she would just be someone we'd see in passing when it meant jumping to other characters, but then you see her in her room talking about how she's gonna be mom. She's gonna take this place over. She's gonna be mom now, and she's got these high expectations of what her career is gonna be within this organization.
And her energy.
Oh yeah,
Let's just get that out there, because
the
mom, she is calm, cool, and collected. Like, you can see the malicious looks and stuff like that every now and then. The scene of Emma in the hallway and Norman comes around the corner and she's just leaned over staring at him is terrifying.
Yeah.
But I keep wanting to call her Corona. Crona.
Just lose the O.
Yeah, Crona. She is just like, when she's with the smaller kids, like you see them play tag, she looks like she is going to run them down and just murder freaking every single one of them. But as soon as she gets to them, it's just loving and playing like she's a big sister. But you see her in her room and she's just like fucking psychotic.
Even has a baby doll that looks
creepy ass looking baby doll, which I feel like gets explained a little bit too, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's been quite some time since I've watched it, but she's just absolutely insane. Dances around the room, makes up little songs and shit when she's dancing around the room, starts smashing crap. Like, she's just fucking, I don't even know, dude. She's crazy.
Yeah, her energy's like, there's a lot.
Which is probably a reason why she hasn't been promoted to a mother station yet.
And we find out that she was actually trying to use Gilda as a rat. But Gilda makes a point, because there was a moment where it was like Gilda and Emma, I guess, had realized that they hadn't quite been buddy here recently, and then they were trying to reconnect, and I think Emma was actually spying on her, technically, in this regard, to see if she might be the spy. And then, of course, at the end of the evening, they had their talk. They were just like getting close again, and then Gilda walks out of the room. She panics, like, oh shit, she is the spy.
In the middle of the night.
She goes to Crona's room, and Emma follows to listen in. And of course, Emma's like, I'm not going to tell you anything. There's nothing wrong. We're best of friends. We just had a fight is all. And just kind of puts Emma's mind at ease. Yeah. But then through all of this is when we find out about Ray and what he's been up to and his shenanigans. But again, I know he's explaining stuff to Norman, but I just don't trust him. You know, what he's telling, what he's saying, and we even see it from the other side too, because as we said, he is doing spying for Mother, and we've had at least one or two scenes that I can recall where he was actually giving her information. Yeah. And he comes off like this snotty little kid's like, well, I did this for you. You owe me something. And I personally don't see how that works in this relationship, because she's like, you know, I can send you off just as easy. But again, he's a tool right now. So I don't know. I don't know where his allegiances lie, because he just seems like it's wherever works best for him.
Well, I feel like you definitely will get an answer to his allegiance. And some of the stuff that you brought up will definitely get explained.
Okay. We'll pass through it right now. But right now, I just don't trust him.
Yeah.
You know, I want to, because I want to feel like he cares about him. But then there were those other things where I was talking about Norman and how he's plotting, you know, without telling anybody, because there was a scene, and I can't remember which episode it was, but he and Emma were hanging up laundry, talking about their plans. And Norman, like, Emma is hell bent. She wants all these kids to come with them. When they go to escape, she wants everyone's getting out. No one's being left behind. There's not going to be another Connie. Yes. Ray would rather it just be the three of them. Yes. Like, he even told Norman point blank, let's make her think we're going to take everybody, but then we're going to just, the three of us, we're going to escape. And Norman's like, well, how's that going to work? He's like, well, figure it out when the time comes, but right now let's just make her think that's going to be all of us, but then, well, it'll be the three of us. That already is just like not sitting right with me. And then Norman, when talking to her, she brought up that she doesn't quite feel like he means it. She has concern. She's like, do you really think he's wanting to take everybody? He's like, oh yeah, sure. Even though they had that conversation, but then you kind of see his wheels turning for a second. He's processing something or thinking, and he even kind of just chuckles to himself or something, and then back to laundry. So that's where I was like, this dude is plotting something bigger that no one else knows about. And I give him props for it, because I can't wait to see what he's got up his sleeve, because he's a strategist, as I said.
Yeah.
He's sharp.
And it's definitely, because that's another thing that I don't know if you've noticed. The younger kids outnumber the older kids.
It does seem that way, yeah.
Yes. Out of the 30-something children, I mean, a handful of them are literal toddlers.
Mm-hmm. They even had an infant come in with Corona.
Yes, they have a brand new infant. When you see her in the room, there are other infants there. So you have infants to toddlers to, 6, 7-year-olds, with the oldest 3 being 11, and then Ray, who will turn 12 within the next couple. His birthday's in January. So it's just like, I love Emma. She is like the sunshine.
Yeah, she's really positive.
Yes. And I love her dedication to her family. Because like they do point out, none of them are blood related. But they have all been raised together. So for their entire lives, they are the only family they have ever known. So they all have those sibling relationships, regardless of blood. And Emma refuses to leave a single one, because she knows if she leaves them behind, they're just going to die. And she can't live with herself. Where Norman, he knows Ray is right. He knows that they cannot take all of them. But he also knows that they can take more than just the 3 of them. And Ray, all he cares about is just Norman and Emma. Because he knows at least they have the most likelihood of surviving. They have the most likelihood of, trying to figure out what's happening, trying to find help, trying to save everyone eventually.
Right.
But just not right now.
Sure.
It's a roller coaster of a ride. I can't wait till you watch the next 6 episodes.
Well, even what they've kind of set up in this last little stretch was, you had Gilda and Dawn they had speculated, because all 5 of them had finally started to talk to one another and discuss everything. Yet the primary 3 were withholding information to Gilda and Dawn, and that being that the kids were being killed.
Yes.
They didn't give them that information. They left them out of the loop for what we would assume would just be to protect them. Not to panic them or freak them out or anything like that.
Yeah. I'd say probably initially to gauge how they reacted. And then that way, if one of them went to Mother and was like, Emma told us, or Emma, Norma, and Ray told us that, you were selling us to people, to bad people.
Yeah.
Then it would still be, well, okay, they just think we're selling you to bad people. I can fix this.
Right.
Instead of it being like them absolutely terrified because they're getting sold off for food.
Yeah.
So I think that was their initial thing, and that they always planned on eventually telling them that they were dead. But I also think that because obviously they are younger, they are at least 10. So I think it's also that whole Emma and them are older, so they feel like they're trying to protect the younger ones, even if it's just a year younger. They're trying to protect their younger siblings from the absolute terror that they are now having to deal with. Because I honestly cannot imagine, as an 11-year-old child, being able to deal with that knowledge.
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
The knowledge the person you thought loved you more than anything in this world is literally leading you off to die. That all your siblings that you've ever known and loved have all gone to die. Because you even see when Dawn and oh my God, I'm so bad with her name.
Gilda?
When they break into Mother's office, Which,
That's
good
what I
on
was trying
Dawn.
to get on to.
Oh.
Is that they
My
found
bad.
out that she had a hidden room.
Yes.
And then
Emma
they broke
and-
into it.
Yes.
So continue.
Yes. Well, good on Dawn because he is one hell of a pickpocket. He just bumped into Mother and ganked her key out of her little apron and everything, and she never even noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But they break in, to this little room, which honestly kind of looks like a bedroom, if not a glorified closet.
Mm-hmm. And
But
the reason they did this, by the way, is they
Yes.
noticed something on a map where something didn't add up. In the rooms, certain settings and how the walls
Yes.
were set, they knew something was off and there just had to be a hidden room.
yes,
But the main three were like, maybe we could just not worry about that right now. And then, of course, Don wouldn't let it go, especially when he got to the point where he felt like he was being left out of something.
yes.
And he got real suspicious. Like, no, we're going to figure this out. And then,
I mean, he was. I feel like they showed his closeness with Connie more than any of the others
Yeah.
because when you saw her with Dawn.
And he was even the one that cried when she left. Like, I don't want to disparage how they played it off, but it almost came off almost comedic in a sense.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, I'm so sorry you're going, Emma. Or,
Yeah, I think it was meant to be comedic.
Yeah, because
right after that is when you get super depressy.
That's true. That's true. So, one last little
Yeah.
moment of light.
Yeah, one last little ha-ha. But yeah, they get down into the room, or they get into the room, they find a little hidey hole that, goes down into like a basement or cellar or whatever. And that is where they find Connie's bunny,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a toy or an item from every single one of their siblings that they knew. And that's when Dawn kind of starts to realize that he fears the reason that they didn't say anything is because all their siblings are in fact dead, and it wasn't just them being sent to bad people. And somehow they get out of it. These kids are freaking master ninjas.
They did not give us any indication how they got out because Mother was in the room.
Well, remember, there's 2 doors into that middle room. That's what Emma was pointing out. She either goes in through the washroom or she goes in through her office.
So they had to have gotten out through the washroom because she was in her office and that was one of those moments of intensity.
Yeah.
Because you hear her come
them.
in. Yeah, and you're just like, oh shit, how are you getting out of this?
Yep. Like that one, and then when they were under the truck in the very first episode. Like, how the fuck did they get out of there? Because they would have had to have ran past all of them to get out of that gate.
I think they're just hiding these little things.
Right?
So we don't question. Just don't worry about it. They got away.
They're just like, they're fast as fuck, boy. Oh, my goodness. But yes, they figure out that's when, Dawn basically calls them out, and he punches both Norman and Ray and almost hits Emma. Like, he has his fist, balled up and his arm back like he's going to hit her, and has her by the not scruff of her neck, her collar.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because he'll get so mad, and then it's like, I'm sorry, I need to calm down.
Yeah.
Like, he's so quick to freaking change his mood.
Yeah, but it was in that scene where he was being called out that I pointed out that scene that I mentioned before where there seemed to be someone in the room, but we didn't quite get an answer. You just got a feeling. And then Ray, we see him actually talking to Mother, and I'm starting to think she's getting suspicious of his loyalties too. Because as they're sitting there talking about the events, he's saying that he and Norman got into a fight over a disagreement over a plan or whatever. And it was when he said, I just, don't send them off. I just want them to stay here. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when her suspicion kicked on. Like, she's like, oh, okay, something's wrong here. Because why is he trying to protect them? And I can understand that, it shouldn't matter who you're trying to protect, especially in this situation.
Yeah. I think she definitely knows that he has every intention of protecting Emma and Norman
Hmm.
because she's aware of the fact that he's the one that has tipped them off so far.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I feel like she looks at him as he can just kind of run around and do what he wants, but she feels like she's manipulating it to gives him just enough freedom to think that he's, free and clear without it actually being so.
And that might actually be the easiest way to keep him in line is giving him everything he wants, because if you're making him think he can just get whatever he wants for information, then you can keep on the hook as long as you want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you think or you know or you don't know. It's like, well, I've got him by the balls anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, she seems like by that last conversation that she's just like, okay, I'm going to have to rethink this whole thing. Because I don't know, there was a sense that she was getting suspicious of his loyalties. And
and she did tell him that, because they did figure out that a child is sent off every 2 months. And they figured that the next one would definitely be either Emma, Norman, or Ray, because they are 11 and have the highest test scores. And Ray gets told by Mother that there will not be a shipment in December. And instead, they have pushed it back to January. And then Ray basically calls her out on the fact that it will be on his 12th birthday. And they just have this weird smile thing going on between them.
Yeah. So, and from that point, we kind of get to the end of it all, where we see them all kind of, the entire group walking through the woods, heading toward the wall, talking about their plan, what they're going to do.
Yep.
And having all this, we got this, we're going to make it work. And then who should appear but Krona from hidden behind that tree.
Yeah, that scene. Oh my God. It's like any of those freaking ghost movies or shit that we've watched, like Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor, those shows where you're sitting there watching it and you just see something off in a corner and you're like, oh shit. Like, it's been there the whole time. That is her. And it's crazy because every time you see her, or like from the kids' point of view, every time they see her, she's got like this just crazy ass look on her face. And then she does this weird like Grinch/Joker smile.
Yeah. And what was interesting about the shot where she came in here is they were following one of the kids walking by the tree, and you can just see her like bottom portion of her body, but you see the outfit and everything. You're like, wait, what? Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it just creeps up on you. So it was a really interesting reveal. And then when she starts talking to them, it goes in two directions, where you expected it to start and then not where you expected it to end, because she comes out and she's like, oh, I heard everything you said. Oh, I know your whole plan. I heard everything that you're going to do. Can I get in on it? And you're like, wait, what? So that's where we kind of left these last six, with Krona actually sounding like she wants to team up. And my hypothesis would be she can maybe work this to her favor, to where she could be a mom or a mother or whatever, as opposed to being in the training session. But she's a few sheets.
She's a few cards short of full deck.
Yeah.
Like half a deck short of a full
few
deck.
sardines short of a can.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely not all there. But again, I do, because you do find out a little bit about her. Again, when you kind of see, I don't want to go into it, but you do find out a little bit. And I feel like once you have certain information, you're going to realize why these people are the way that they are.
Okay. I mean, eating people would probably have a lot to do with someone's mental instability, but I don't know if she's the one eating people.
Oh, no, not the mothers. The demons are the only ones that eat people.
Okay, but I didn't know if they all partook or just were just like, I'm curious.
No.
You might get curious.
No.
I want a veal steak of a child,
No.
No? Okay. I don't know.
At least, God, I'd hope not.
I mean, you can just market it and call it Connie Bacon.
Oh, Jesus.
Connie Cakes.
Oh, my God.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not advocating for cannibalism. And again, this is not cannibalism because they're demons, but, you know, the mothers, the people working there, they might get curious at some point. I mean, they're complacent of what's going on. So maybe it's just like, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hypothesizing. But yeah, this is where we got left off. Pretty good cliffhanger to kind of end it right there, too. I know that's only halfway there, but I thought it was a good stopping point.
Yeah.
You know, not expected, but a good stopping point nonetheless. Because like, oh, now things are changing a little bit. So what's this going to do? But I still feel like Norman's got a plan. Ray is not to be trusted. And Emma's the one that's going to be hurt by them both.
Yeah.
Because they're not letting her in on it. She's just free-spirited, happy-go-lucky, and...
They're both giving her false hope.
Yeah. And she's got too much of a good damn heart.
She does.
And it's gonna break because of these two.
I also feel like it kind of makes it harder for Emma to like turn her back on her siblings, because I don't know if you picked up on it, but there's several times she's mentioned she works in the nursery with Mother.
Well, we did see that one when they brought in the new baby, because we didn't even talk about that, the tracking chips.
Yes.
They were trying to figure out where, because they knew she was tracking them. So it was like, where did they put them on us? And from what they figured out, she noticed like they took blood from the baby.
Well, that's Mother said that the sore on the back of their ear is from where they took blood from the babies.
Right. So she looked on the back of the ear and noticed that baby had a little, mark. And she's like, okay. But then looked on Gilda's ear and even checked her own, and there was no scar. But put two and two together and you can figure out, okay, they're just implanting something there.
Yeah.
And now you know where the tracking chip. So they said something in that last episode that they had found a way to block it? Or
Ray said that there is a way to destroy them, because they weren't sure if there was a way to destroy them, or if they did destroy them, if it would set off some kind of alarm. They're assuming it sets off some kind of alarm because there are no cameras, no listening devices. And again, they have full run over God knows how many acres of property.
That's another odd part about it too, is we know the year is 2045. That's another thing we haven't even mentioned. It's set in the future. There's technology, has to be out there because we've seen how they take tests.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, why don't they have that place littered with cameras and tracking devices and all this other shit to where they can keep an eye on everybody? And
see, that's a good question, because there's a part where when Ray's talking about the things that he gets as gifts from Mother for, giving her information, he says that there's basically nothing he can't get, and that everything he gets is like outdated.
Yeah.
That it's all old. So we haven't really seen much of the stuff that he's gotten so far. But another thing that we didn't touch on is Phil, the little boy, tipped off Emma, I say tipped off, but noticed there in a book, a children's book he was reading.
Yeah, the book.
There was an insignia of an owl that is surrounded by circles, or a circle. Well, in each book that this insignia was in, the circle was different. And Emma and Ray started to realize that it was Morse code, and then they brought in Norman to break the Morse code, or to decipher the Morse code.
Are you saying Morse?
Am I saying Morse?
It sounds like Morris from where I'm sitting. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. Because I was just like, is she saying Morris?
I think I was saying Morris.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
What is
Morse.
It? Morris.
No. Morse.
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 Morse?
Morse. Morse. Morse.
Morse. Okay, my bad.
Morse code.
Morse code.
Morse is a cat. Morse is a code.
Okay. They decipher the Morse code. I
Still feel like you
still
said
said
it.
it.
Anyway, yeah, the books have a Morse code
Yes, that.
within the insignia.
Yes. And they decipher it and they come to the conclusion that the man who has written these books is a human on the outside who is trying to help the children who are in this orphanage. And there are two specific books that they have where one of them, it has a solid circle, which obviously doesn't stand for anything. And then the other one says promise. And Emma's hypothesis is that these two books will help them on the outside, in the outside world, which again, we know absolutely nothing about. You get to see a glimpse of the outside world when Emma climbs a tree to look over to see how wide the wall is, and all you see is tree line.
Yeah, I was about to say it didn't look any different than where they were.
So,
and I feel like they even kind of, it was in that scene too where they were deciphering all that, almost made it sound like they had, I'm trying to remember if I've got this correctly. It was almost like they were like, well, what if the world is one way, but then what if it is another way? We don't know. We're just assuming based on what we have. Because I think that was the other thing too they were trying to figure out with the code is they looked at the dates on the book.
Yes.
Because again, the stamps were just saying this book was owned by fill in the blank. So the oldest or the newest book they had was 30 years old. So they don't even know if the man's still alive or what's happened within the time that he sent the book there. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of time. So that even begs a bigger question. How long has this been happening?
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, you think of the fact that their mother is known for her high tier crop and her oldest 3 kids are 11.
Yeah.
So that's only 11 years. There had to have been other children who were older that were considered high tier for her to ever be considered that.
And did we explain the test thing? Because it seemed from what we saw, and I don't know if we mentioned this, but they mentioned that it seemed like the testing was meant to explain, like, I guess, the quality of the food, because from what they gathered, the brain was like the succulent part.
Yes.
So if you had high test scores,
it would be the delicacy.
Yeah. Your high test scores, your brain is fully functional and just great. Yep. Like Norman's brain.
Norman, Emma, and Ray all score perfect every single time.
So their brains would be magnifique.
Exactly.
But yet they've...
And that's why they were holding off, and that's why they haven't been sent off to be eaten yet, is because once they reach 12 years old, it's like perfectly aged.
Gotcha.
So it's a waiting game. So they're like, we got some more, crap meat, but we're about to get 3 good ones.
Yeah. So you can tolerate that, I suppose, if you're waiting for a good brain.
I guess.
But yeah, that was the whole purpose with the testing, was the brain. I don't even know the proper term I'm looking for here. Just how good it's going to taste.
Yeah. Pretty much. They said that the average kids that were being shipped out were between, what'd they say, like 6 and 9, 6 and 10?
I feel like 6 and 9.
It might be 6 and 9.
Right.
But basically that most of the siblings that they themselves know of, like knew and got adopted, were between those age ranges. And that they are considered basically just the low tier meat, not, garbage or nothing, but just the...
You've had better.
Exactly. It's considered just the kind of meh meat. And then you have, Emma and their tier, which is considered the delicacy and the
Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
Okay.
McDonald's versus, what? Whataburger? Is that one of the good ones?
In-N-Out is supposed to be the
okay, there you
class
go.
tier.
It's McDonald's versus In-N-Out.
There you go. We've never had In-N-Out, so we wouldn't know.
No, we haven't.
Maybe
for us, it'd be like McDonald's versus Five Guys, or
yeah, Five Guys. That's good.
What's that? Fat Moe's.
Fat Moe's is good too.
Fat Moe's is a good burger.
Okay. Anyway, I really don't have anything else that I can think about that I want to talk about with these 6 episodes. I think we covered.
Yeah.
Just about everything. I can't think of anything we missed.
And I feel like we've left enough to where hopefully, I mean, if you're listening to this, I would hope that obviously you don't care for or care about
Spoilers.
Getting stuff spoiled. Yes, because if you're listening to it, I would hope you know it's coming. But
at the same time, as I've said before, if this is not something you think you would want to watch, like have no interest in the animes or anything like that, but you're listening to this because maybe you like my voice, maybe you like Katrina's voice, maybe you just have some weird thing that you like to just listen to random podcasts that you have zero interest in, and then maybe listening to this saying, holy shit, this sounds interesting as hell, I want to watch this. I don't know. But in any case, I hope that people will go check this out because I'm intrigued. I'm anxious to see where the next 6 episodes go. But at the same time, because of you, I'm not really looking forward to finishing this show because I'm going to be disappointed come next season.
I know.
So
I know.
What am I looking forward to?
I didn't want you to get all excited by the end of the first season and be so ramped up like I was for the second season and then come crashing down.
Gotcha. So you just tempered my
because I
expectations.
literally called my sister and was like, what the fuck? I was so mad.
Fair enough. But we'll talk about that when we get there because I know
Yes.
that there's some stories behind that. So we'll break all that shit down.
But I did want to ask, I know it is not, I don't think it is considered horror. I think it's considered thriller. But as a horror/thriller fan, how do you feel about it as far as being labeled for something like that?
Well, see, we actually kind of talked about this on Horror Ramblings not that long ago, or actually very recently, matter of fact, where we talked about the label that kaiju films get.
Yes.
Where if you go and you pay attention, like on any streaming platform, I will almost guarantee you go into the horror section, and if they have kaiju movies like Godzilla or King Kong or Gamera or fill in the blank, you are going to find them under horror despite the content, because I don't know about you, but Son of Godzilla is no horror film.
No.
Okay? I would not classify that as a horror film at all. Kid-friendly, family, fantasy, sci-fi, maybe. Yeah. Not a horror movie.
Yeah.
But yet it'll be classified as such. So with this, I think I would put it under a horror thriller banner. I think it actually fits very well under that because the concept alone, it's not graphic by any means. I mean, hell, the only graphic thing we've really seen thus far was just seeing Connie.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we haven't seen anything bad yet. I'm sure that something will happen, but the just the premise alone is enough for it to fit under that banner. And I would 100% wholeheartedly agree. Horror. I even argued Godzilla -1 would kind of put it in a horror section because while
100%,
it could almost be a World War II drama. He's the horror. You know, your main character, your title creature is a fucking horror monster in this movie. You know, he's not a good creature. So I feel like you feel that tension, you feel that terror. And here, same thing. There's that tension, there's that horror, there's that fear. So yeah, I think it fits under that banner very well.
I'm glad to hear it. And I can't wait to watch the next 6 episodes. So I guess we should just go ahead and jump into it. Y'all know where you should be, listening to us if you made it this far or if you found us in general. And is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, we're on every podcasting platform that's available. We're on YouTube if you prefer that as your platform. Patreon if you want to throw $1 our way. We don't mind. You don't have to be like a whole lot. Throw us 50 cents if they'll allow it. I don't care. But everything's down below. You can check out our website, pencilpaperproductions.com/inspired weeaboo. That's where you can find everything you need.
All right, my little weebs. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.